named as Santa Anita Park welcomes Darren Tollison to the races today. In the 7th, the Wishing Well, scratch number My Prayer. They're in the gate. And they're off in the Wishing Well. Hear My Prayer, very quick. Alice Marble showing some natural early speed, and Dynasty of Her Own comes through along the inside to vie for the lead. It's Hear My Prayer under a stranglehold on the outside. Dynasty of Her Own at the rail, and Alice Marble is in between them. Tapwater's the gray. Spirit of Bermuda and Stella Noir at the back of a compact group. Dynasty of Her Own passes the half-mile pole, leading the way by about a length. Alice Marble, Hear My Prayer, still held on the outside third. Biding her time is the favorite on the outside. Down at the rail comes Stella Noir. Tapwater is in striking range, just 2.5 lengths off the speed. As the field comes to the quarter pole, Spirit of Bermuda's between those two. Hear My Prayer let loose on the outside. Alice Marble, Dynasty of Her Own fights on. Tapwater in the center of the course. Stella Noir is down on the inside looking for room, and Spirit of Bermuda as Alice Marble charges to the front. Opens up two. Stella Noir gets out late and starts to rally strongly. Alice Marble, Stella Noir, Alice Marble. The Calbred schools them in the Wishing Well. Stella Noir second. Then it was Spirit of Bermuda third, and a photo between Tapwater for fourth, along with Dynasty of Her Own and Hear My Prayer tired late. Eighth race starts the golden hour pick. And they're off. Little Lightheaded is going straight to the front, trying to clear off now. Elector and Set Sail come away second and third. Houndstooth on the far outside is up close as well. Then Magnificent, American Admiral, and guided to the far outside is Vittoro, kept in the clear. Down the backstretch they go, and it's Little Lightheaded leading it by just a head. Houndstooth presses, as does Elector from the inside, and now Elector goes on even terms with Little Lightheaded. Houndstooth is third, about a length off the leader now. Down at the rail, Set Sail with Vittoro outside of him. The two trailers, American Admiral and Magnificent. They have 3/8 of a mile to go. Elector tries to shake loose and does so. It's Elector in front by 2. Houndstooth, Set Sail, picking it up on the inside third. They're followed by American Admiral advancing fourth. Little Lightheaded. Vittoro drops out of it with 1/4 of a mile to go. Elector the leader. Set Sail comes after him between horses. Houndstooth on the outside, but it's Elector with a 3-length lead and a furlong left to go. On the far outside, American Admiral grinding away with Set Sail, but Elector is long gone. It's Elector, sharp in victory under Ricky Gonzalez, strolling in by 5, maybe a little more. American Admiral, Set Sail, Houndstooth was fourth. Fifth went to Vittoro to complete the super high 5. They're in the gate. And they're off. Precedent had a little bit of a rough beginning. Charlie's Ghost, very fast away from the gate. So too Delmas along the inside, and Delmas sprints clear at once. Awesome Rhythm is in the race early, third, only 2 lengths off the speed. It's a gap of 3 to You're My Boy Cat, who races on the outside of Asphalt Andy, who's moving through along the inside as they pass the half-mile pole. And next to Asphalt Andy is Disco Tribute racing in between horses. And outside of that pair is Mow Them Down, trying to come from off the pace today. Then it's a gap of 4 back to Tofino Bay. Another pretty big gap to Audacious Prince and Precedent at the back of the field. They're a quarter of a mile from home, and Charlie's Ghost is the leader, 3/4 of a length. Delmas coming back for more in second. Disco Tribute is just behind them. White Blinkers trying to rally. Outside is Awesome Rhythm, also trying to get involved. It's back. Awesome Rhythm is coming smartly in the center of the course. And from the back of the field, Tofino Bay is really rocketing. And here comes Tofino Bay flying on the outside after Awesome Rhythm. And Tofino Bay wins at first asking. Awesome Rhythm loses a heartbreaker. Disco Tribute mowed them down, and then it was close for fifth.
A lot of people who watch the seminar always comment to me, you know what, I really like that introductory part of the seminar when I find out a little bit more about your guest. Well, today's guest is a world traveler. He's been to racetracks that we can only dream about thinking of going to. He's also an owner, and of course, he's a horse player. Hi, everybody. My name is Tom Quigley, VIP Player Concierge, also your seminar host for the next 35 minutes. Delighted that you decided to join us. Of course, we're fast and firm here at the Great Race Place for today's 8-race card. But without further ado, let's bring in that world traveler. He's a good friend of mine. His name, Ken Shaw. Kenny, welcome to the seminar.
Thanks, Tom. Glad to be here.
It's great to have you here. Now, before we talk about your world travels, let's first talk about how you got introduced to the game, I should say. What was the very first experience when you came to the racetrack?
Actually, it started at Saratoga. My mom grew up in upstate New York, and we used to do a family day once a year, and we would go to Saratoga, sit out on the picnic benches, and spent every summer back there for 2-3 weeks. And one of my uncles, my Uncle Greg, who's passed away now, was an avid horse player. So as I started to get a little bit older, he would start to take just me to the track on some days. And that's where I really started to learn how to read the racing form, how to handicap, and those types of things. And then out on the West Coast, some people I work with, and they like the track. So we started coming. And so it just became a love, and kind of got into it, the ownership side, a little bit later.
It is a love, that's for sure. You're here almost every day on a regular basis. When you came out to California, was that when you first went to UCLA, or did you move out to California before then?
No, I was actually born in California. I would go my mom was born in upstate New York, so we'd spend every summer back there as part of the family deal. My dad worked for American Airlines, so we get to fly for free to lovely Albany, New York, and stay in Schenectady. So that was our prize versus going to Hawaii.
Well, it sounds like traveling was in your blood from the very beginning. And I talked about how you've traveled around the world. Give us an idea of some of the countries, continents you've been to, and maybe some of the racetracks you've been to as well.
Yeah, so obviously the most prevalent is Australia. I had the opportunity to lead our business down there for a while. So lived in Brisbane, so got to go to both Eagle Farm, Doomben quite a bit. Obviously had the opportunity to go to the Melbourne Cup and the Spring Carnival and all those days associated with that. And then around the U.S., pretty much any good track or bad track you can imagine.
There is no such thing, right?
Yeah,
for a horse player.
Over the years, as well as, in fact, when I was parking this morning, talking to Billy at the valet, even done some dog tracks, both domestic and abroad. And then as far as travel, pretty much everywhere in Europe, a little bit in the Middle East, Asia, Pacific, and the like. So in South America, Central America. So I've had quite an opportunity through my job and interest to travel quite a bit and bring up some miles.
Now, Australia's on my bucket list. I've never been, unfortunately, but I want to get there, and I better do it soon. But I like it for 3 reasons. They speak English, they like to drink, and they like to gamble on the horses. You talked about the Melbourne Cup. That's a spectacle that basically stops the nation.
Yes.
What was it like attending the Melbourne Cup?
It was interesting. It was my second year, and my first year down there, my job was in Brisbane, and I'll get to it, but I think it's kind of important. So talking about the race that stops a nation, so it's a Tuesday in Brisbane. Every pub, every restaurant has some kind of activity. I had a couple thousand people in our business. Everybody dresses up that day, and right around lunchtime, the whole place shuts down.
Wow.
And so you get to watch it from that perspective. Then the next year went to both Oaks Day, Derby Day, and Cup Day. And when you're at the Cup, it is like nothing you've ever experienced. 150, 160,000 people, and everybody is dressed up, having fun, and just a great, enjoyable time. And there's 24 horses, going 2 miles. Sure. So there's a lot of handicapping involved and a lot of luck involved.
Now, obviously, we love Australia racing, but we also love North American racing. And of course, we reside right here at the Great Race Place. What is it to you that makes the Great Race Place so special?
I think it's a combination of obviously great racing on a year-round basis, just about, but also the ambiance. The weather's fantastic. You have very few bad days that you need to handicap through. And as an owner, you get to train your horses every day, or with very few exceptions, the handful of rain days we get here and there. And it's just the most beautiful racetrack with the backdrop of the mountains and just all the spectacle of it. A lot of other great tracks in the country, a lot of great tracks in the world, but none of them have the beauty of Santa Anita.
Ken and I are both proud to call Santa Anita home. We're going to take a quick break and toss it over to our track announcer, Frank Miramati, and get the early program changes. When we return, we'll find out who Ken likes on today's 8 race card and the reasons behind those handicapping factors. We'll take a quick break and throw it over to Frank.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Santa Anita Park, the great race place. Here are the early changes. The track is fast, the turf is firm, the rail on the turf is out 20 feet. In the first race, start of the 50-cent early pick 5, we have no changes. Blinker note in the second, start of the early pick 4. Third race, scratch 5, Gator Shining. Overweight, number 6, I'm Still Thirsty, 1 over. Third race is the start of the Rainbow 6. We have 84,000 in the jackpot carryover. In the fourth, start of the late pick 5, just the blinker note. Fifth race, 2, Gem and Jill, 2 pounds over, and we have the program scratch of number 6. Late pick 4 starts with the 5th. In the sixth race, number 1, La Chiquise, 1 is 2 pounds over. 2, Sci-Far, 1 pound over. Seventh race starts the golden hour pick 4, no show wagering. Scratch number 2, Shaz. And in the eighth race, start of the $5 golden hour double, no scratches or jockey changes. Enjoy your afternoon at Santa Anita Park. Post time for the first is 59 minutes away at 12:30. At this time, we go back to Quigley's Corner. Tom's special guest today is Ken Shaw.
Welcome back. We're talking horses with Ken Shaw. He's an owner as well as a horse player. He's traveled around the world and been to multiple racetracks, many of which, unfortunately, many of us will never get a chance to go to. But of course, it's our pleasure to have him as our guest today. And Kenny, before we take a look at today's 8 race card, just a question for you. I see you have the racing form in front of you. What type of handicapper are you? Just a meat and potatoes type of guy? Do you go back and watch race replays? Do you kind of dig into the pedigree? Do you look at workouts? What do you do as a handicapper?
Yeah, so good question. Kind of my style is I'll go through the racing form, look at each race, make some notes to myself, then look at the workouts. I rarely will go watch videos, just something I've not done, partly because of the amount of time it takes. And then I like to look at thoroughgraph sheets and see how those compare to kind of my speed figures as well as the buyers, and then look at the race shape at the end and really try to figure out how the race is going to shape up and look at the jockeys and kind of their styles and try to guess what's going to happen.
Now, we're kind of spoiled here in North America with the daily racing form because it has so much data. But when you go around the world, there's no such thing as the daily racing form. As an example, when you go to Australia and go to the races, what do they have that you can evaluate the form with?
Yeah, they have the form guide, and the form guide gives you about a third of the information that you'll get.
No internal fractions.
Yeah, you're not going to get a lot of internal fractions, but you are going to get a little bit of race shape. You're going to get what the race conditions were, how the horse moved, and some notes. And usually you can, once you start to figure out how to read the race form down there, the form guide, it starts to supplement the DRF. But certainly when my friends look at the DRF, they're kind of in awe of how much information is available.
It's kind of like a pomp and circumstance in Australia, of course, with all the top hats and all the beautiful women walking around. They do such a great job from a TV standpoint, broadcasting the Melbourne Cup, obviously, to the world. What's it like just kind of being in that crowd? And do you even have a chance to maybe look at the horses in the paddock? I mean, are you so far removed from that it's impossible to get to the paddock with that crowd?
No, the mounting yard, as they call it down in Australia or in the United Kingdom. So usually if you have members enclosure or a clubhouse pass, you can get fairly close to the paddock, maybe for the cup race itself, but the first half of the card, you can be right on the rail just like here, and you get that opportunity. And if you want to go down for the big races, you certainly can, but it's going to be a lot more crowded. But you can get pretty close to the horses, and that's just on Melbourne Cup itself. But most of the races you can get pretty darn close, and it's a different environment as far as all the festivities that are going on a race day.
A lot of champagne.
You tailgate out of the boot, or if you will, the trunk of Rolls Royces in the car parks. And it's very much like an upscale college football tailgating environment. Bands are playing, and then you have bookies as well as your traditional on track race betting.
Well, we didn't give you any 20-horse fields to a handicap today, unfortunately, but we do have 8 winners that we have to try and find on today's card. So let's kick things off here in race number 1, where we kick it off on the turf course, going 1 mile is the distance. Fillies and Mares, maiden claimers, $50,000 is the claiming tag. The rails today are at 20 feet. And of course, race 1 begins the popular 50-cent early pick 5. We've got a field of 6, and the current betting choice at 6 to 5 is number 5, Witch Moon. Before we get your thoughts on the race, Ken, I wanted to show the replay from January 17th, specifically because both Witch Moon and Acoustic Shadow, the outside 2 runners in this field, competed against each other in that race, and they only the distance separating them at the finish line was just a neck. So let's listen to Frank Miramati get them around back on January 17th.
And they're off. Good start for Floral Essence, joined by Twirling Grace and Golden Journey along the inside. Lady Macarena makes it 4 right across the course. Acoustic Shadow is going to be guided over to the rail, and Witch Moon trails. Lady Macarena takes command into the first turn, opens up a length and a half on Floral Essence in second, who's in just a tad tight down at the rail and now backs off nicely. Twirling Grace outside of her. Then comes Golden Journey and the Pink Silks on hold 4th, just a neck in front of Acoustic Shadow. Witch Moon is at the back of the field. Down the back stretch they go, and it's Lady Macarena leading it by a half length. Floral Essence up alongside in second, and outside of them comes Twirling Grace in third. Less than a half mile to go, and Golden Journey is 4th, 2.5 off the lead. Acoustic Shadow right next to her, 2 more to Witch Moon. Now Floral Essence puts the pressure on Lady Macarena and takes the lead away from her around the far turn. Golden Journey at the rail. Twirling Grace is next. Witch Moon is starting to unwind from the back, just needs to find some racing room in the blue silks. In the meantime, it's Floral Essence who has opened up. It's a 4-length lead, chased by Acoustic Shadow in second, then Witch Moon getting some breathing room in third. Inside the 8th pole, Floral Essence by 3. Acoustic Shadow trying to close the gap late, as is Witch Moon. It's Floral Essence holding on, and Floral Essence, another for Tyler Bays. Acoustic Shadow, Witch Moon, Golden Journey a distant 4th.
As we watch the gallop out, Ken, you can see Acoustic Shadow, who finished second, still won't let Witch Moon go by, even on the gallop out. Of course, Witch Moon had some trouble turning into this stretch. Witch Moon and 0 for 13 maiden up to this point. Which of the 2 mares do you like in this race, or are you going in a different direction?
Well, I think the race is going to be largely decided on how quickly Twirling Grace gets out and sets the fractions. And then it's going to be between Witch Moon and Acoustic Shadow on who gets best position, who's going to get into the race a little bit quicker. Obviously, both of them were quite a bit off the pace last time. Pace is probably going to be a little bit slower this time. And it's really going to be a jock's race, in my opinion, on who gets up first. Bill Spar is on fire right now. Mikey's been riding well. So I'm going to probably lean a little bit towards Witch Moon to get the first jump today.
5 and 6 in race number 1. A question for you, Ken, as an owner. You talked about both Witch Moon and Acoustic Shadow, maybe getting involved a little bit more earlier in the race. Are those type of things you discuss with your trainer, or maybe even the jockey, maybe taking the horse out of its style a little bit more based upon the pace of the race?
It's certainly something you talk to your trainer about. To me, it's kind of taboo for owners to be given jockeys instructions. Unless your trainer's not in town and you can sneak it in, which happens rarely, but once in a while. But yeah, it's certainly something as an owner you like to talk to at least talk to your trainer about before the race and give him or her your thoughts.
Race number 2 begins the 50-cent early pick 4. This time we're on the main track. 6.5 furlongs is the distance for fillies and mares. Starter optional claiming types, a field of 5. The morning line favorite down on the rail, number 1, Little Rachel, 8-5 on John White's morning line. Second off a long layoff, ran inside when it seemed like the track was favoring outside. Who do you like in race 2 and why, Kenny?
You know, I really wanted to go with Founders Day because my good friend Jeff Lambert is one of the owners.
He loves the game, doesn't he?
Oh, he absolutely loves the game. But you know, I'm leaning towards the 3-horse with this Vow. Third off a long layoff, starting to show some improvement and back to dirt. I think the horse is much stronger on dirt, and I think Drayden's going to get a pretty good trip out of this one. And Little Rachel would be my second choice.
3 and 1 in that order in race number 2. Question for you, Kenny. Don't name names, but are there certain trainers or jockeys from a handicapping standpoint you tend to either embrace or avoid?
Absolutely.
And what would both those reasons be? Like, why would you maybe tend to shy away from some jockeys or trainers?
Well, with jockeys, it tends to be who is hot at the time and who may be struggling at the time. You know, you'll see jockeys that are just struggling for weeks on end, whether that's a combination of not getting good mounts, bad racing luck, or whatever the case may be. And then certainly there's some jockeys that you look at that you think fit your horse better or not, whether it be, you know, a horse going 2 turns and not much speed in the race and you think you want to get speed, and there's certain jockeys you may want to be able to get out there and so-called walk the dog. And then there's other jockeys that are just phenomenal on the turf, for example, and just have that way. And we might talk about some of that today.
Fair enough. And it's right. You're right, Kenny. It's a streaky game, that's for sure. And we see it every day as handicappers. Race number 3 begins the 20-cent Rainbow Pick 6. The jackpot single ticket carryover now up to $84,000. Yesterday, there were 4 winners who each took home in excess of $18,000. Congratulations to those very skilled players. And we kicked the Rainbow Pick 6 off here in race number 3, sprinting 6.5 furlongs on the turf course, on the flat turf course, $25,000 claimers, non-winners of 2 races lifetime, a field of 5 after the scratch of number 5. Again, before we get your opinion, Kenny, want to watch a replay. 3 of these 5 horses exit the same race. It was back on January 23rd. It was the 5th race, specifically Crossword, Quantum Quest, and Inch. All participated in that race. Let's watch the replay and listen to Frank Miramati.
They're in the gate. And they're off. Nichiren is going to the front. Dream Robber has some speed. Quantum Quest now takes second. Crossword is up and on the pace too. They're followed by Muay Thai. Inside Sir Flatter. Another 3 back to Inch. Outside Warren's Candyman. And Me Macho at the back of proceedings. Down the back stretch they go. And it's Nichiren just in front. Quantum Quest second. 2 more. Dream Robber on the outside. A close-up third. Crossword at the rail under an ice hold in 4th, has 3 lengths to make up. It's another 4 back to Muay Thai, joined by Sir Flatter, a length and a half to Inch, then a gap to the 2 trailers, Warren's Candyman and Me Macho. They have a 1/4 mile to go. Nichiren has been doing battle with Quantum Quest throughout. Just behind them, Crossword tipping off the rail, and then Dream Robber in 4th. They're followed by Muay Thai in the green. They're in the final furlong. Muay Thai angling to the far outside, and now starting a motor home. Here's Muay Thai coming right at them, gobbling them up with a 1/16 of a mile to go under Flavian Pratt, who was confident throughout. Muay Thai jogs. Second to Crossword. 3rd, Inch. Then it was Quantum Quest in front of Dream Robber.
Muay Thai came back yesterday, Ken, to disappoint, but of course he raised up in class, so perhaps you can forgive that was a poor performance. But certainly Inch caught the eye late there, closing into 3rd place. That particular replay we just watched was at a distance of 6 furlongs. Today's distance is 6.5. Who do you like in race 3 and why?
Yeah, I have 2 here, Big Flame and Inch, and because I see kind of the race shape is Crossword's going to have to go from the rail. You know, Speed Horse Victor, I think is going to get pushed by Quantum Quest. They're going to set the early fractions, and I think that's going to set up pretty well for Inch. And I'm a big fan of Big Flame. You know, I like the Mr. Big angle you asked earlier about pedigrees. Mr. Big seemed to get better with age. The work pattern with Tim Yaktine since the last race at Del Mar, I think is pretty strong for a trainer that doesn't tend to go quite that hard on his horses. It sure looks like that horse is going to be on his toes. And I think JJ Hernandez is going to get a perfect trip, very similar to the first race. I think it's going to be who gets first jump coming around that turn between himself and Rispoli.
2 and 4 in race number 1. If you like crossword, take note of this special statistic courtesy of Brad Free at the Racing Form. The John Sadler barn with turf sprint favorites since January 1st, 2021. That's happened 17 times. They've won 10 of those times with 5 seconds. 15 for 17, first or second for the John Sadler barn with turf sprint favorites since January 1st, 2021. Race number 4 begins the 50-cent late pick 5, but also take note, we've got a $13,000 super high 5 carryover. Nobody hit it in the nightcap yesterday. It goes forward to race number 4 today. So 50-cent late pick 5 time as well as a super high 5 carryover. We're going 1 mile on the main track for maiden claiming 3-year-old fillies. $30,000 is the claiming tag. Field of 7, the morning line favorite number 4, Loma Vista, owned by Little Red Feather, trained by Phil D'Amato, 8-5 on the morning line, taking a drop down in class, going sprint to route. A lot of changes happening here. To me, this was a difficult race, Kenny.
Oh, this race is the hardest race of the day, in my opinion, because as you talk about, pretty much all but one horse is doing something they've never done before. Dirt, going long. And so pretty much you're trying to figure out how is everybody going to respond to going 2 turns. There's no pace in the race. You know, my gut feeling says that Drayden will go on the 4-horse Loma Vista, try to get an easy lead. And if he can get an easy lead and, you know, start clicking off 12s for the first, 3-4 furlongs, then I think the race is wide open and he'll just continue to walk away and get really brave on the lead. But the other horse I like is Silent Beauty. I think that horse has a chance to close. So if there's any pressure at all on Loma Vista, I think the 6-horse could be one that gets a good trip and might be able to close late.
The connections for Loma Vista spent $90,000 at auction. Now she's in for $30,000 as an owner, even as a handicapper. How do you kind of evaluate that and include that in your thought process?
Yeah. So as a handicapper, I don't pay too much credence to it when you've seen a horse run a couple times. As an owner, we always get hung up on how much we spend on a horse, and we lose sight of how much we're spending every month on a horse. And, the rule of thumb and, the big circuits here in New York where I have horses is you're going to spend $3,000 to $4,000 a month on a horse. So keep continuing to run it above its head where you can't get paychecks. That's a losing proposition as well. So run them where they can win after you take that first or second shot, thinking that you have a great horse or you're just hoping you have a good horse. And then it's time to run them where they belong. And, we've done that many times, whether it's sending them up to the Golden Gate here, going to Turf Paradise, New York, going up to Finger Lakes.
You have a passion for the game, of course, but it's also a business. And we've been talking about business for the last couple of minutes. How do you treat owning horses more as a business than a hobby? I'm not talking about for tax purposes, but just mentally in terms of managing your stable, managing your horses. There's a big distinction, right? Because you want to enjoy the races, but at the same time, it's a business.
Yeah, and it's something you learn. I started off by being in syndicates where, you usually write one check and you get to watch your horses and you hope you get money at the end. And then I started to get in very small ownership into a couple horses that weren't very expensive. That's where you start to understand all the bills that come every month. Certainly it's obvious that you're going to get a trainer bill, then you get your vet bills, and then, and then,
right.
And you start to learn that and you start to understand the health of the horses and how that equates to the cost of the horses. And you do have to separate it. I'm one, for example, unlike a lot of other owners, I tend not to bet a lot on my horses because that's part of my separation mentality is, hey, if I really like my horse and I think and I handicap the race, without thinking about it as an owner, where my heart's in it, would I bet the horse or am I okay for the purse money? Because that's usually a lot more than you're going to make betting.
For sure. Let's see if we can make any money betting in race number 5. Begins the 50-cent late pick 4. Again, 1 mile on the main track. Fillies and Mares, $10,000 is the claiming tag. Program scratch of the 6 leaves us with a field of 7. The morning line favorite on the outside. Number 8, Miss Tokyo, 5-2 on the morning line, taking a massive drop down in class. What say you about race 5, Ken?
Yeah, on the surface, I think Miss Tokyo is the obvious play here with that massive class drop. Going back to dirt where the horses had arguably its most success, both from a buyer's and speed figure standpoint. but I like the 3-horse as well. Discernment. I love that Los Al angle. Those horses have been coming over from Los Alamitos, been able to go back and forth quite a bit, and turning back from a mile and staying at a mile after a really good close there. I'm going to favor the 3 slightly over the 8.
How do you treat a horse like the rail horse here, coming back in 9 days? There's pros and cons about coming back so quickly. How do you evaluate that?
Yeah,
in general,
I try to look at, has the horse traditionally run back pretty quickly? Because some horses, they can run every week. We tend not to anymore, but if you remember back in, quote, the good old days, that was normal. And now it takes a special horse, and there's a few a little bit later where, they're running, back in 6 days, they're running 3 races in a month. And it's looking at the pattern. Has the horse been able to do that? What, part of it's breeding, what's its age, who's the trainer, what are they known for? Or are they just taking a shot to get a paycheck or potentially get claimed?
3 and 8 in race number 5. Let's take a look at race number 6. 5.5 furlongs on the main track. Maiden claiming fillies and mares in for a $20,000 tag. A field of 8. The favorite is coming off a long layoff. Number 7, Marie. 8-5 on the morning line. Once again for the Sadler Barn. Juan Hernandez could be in store for a big day here. Give us your thoughts on race 6, Ken.
Yeah, I think the whole race goes through Marie, number 7. And that's one of those cases where when I look at it, obviously its first race out, ran pretty well in a maiden special weight, and it's been off for a long, long time. Decent works for John Sadler coming into the race, but it's one of those horses that either wins by 6 or runs up the track.
Correct.
Right, and it's to single that horse, you're going to have to take a lot of guts to go do that. I think the horse will win. But, I like Dorita's Happy as well. I think that horse is, the route to sprint. I think it's going to have a shot to be running late on this deep, very healthy track.
There's a few Calbreds in this race. They're not certainly major contenders, but generally speaking, Ken, in your ownership days, did you really tend to migrate more toward the Calbreds because of the lucrative bonus program, or did it really not matter to you?
It's funny you bring that up, Tom, because it's only been in the last few years that I've migrated to the Calbreds. I started with some Calbreds just through the partnerships. And then, we would go buy horses at the 2-year-olds in training sale, predominantly down in Ocala, a little bit more of the bargain shopper in the April sale, and not too worried about where they were coming from. And where my eyes actually got open was getting into the New York bred program, and then being able to take those experiences, which have been very, very good, and bring them back to the Calbreds. So I'm breeding, buying almost exclusively Calbreds now for racing out here because the program is very lucrative.
A Kentucky bred and a daughter of Run Happy, number 3, Dorita's Happy, is Ken's top pick in race number 6. Let's turn the page, take a look at race number 7. Begins the $1 Golden Hour pick 4. We already know the pick 6 paid well yesterday, but what about the Golden Hour pick 4? $9,657 was a return on a $1 investment, and we'll do it all again today, starting in race number 7. Sprinting 7 furlongs on the main track. Allowance optional claiming types, non-winners of 2 other than. A field of 4 after the scratch of number 2. The heavy favorite and likely to perhaps even go lower is number 4, Triple Tap, the half brother to American Pharaoh, who's 3-5 on the morning line. Good to see Johnny V back in SoCal as well. Single here, Ken, or are you looking elsewhere?
Yeah, I think it's hard not to single Triple Tap. People will look at the buyers and say, "Oh my God, what happened in that last race?"
You ran against Flightline.
Flightline's what happened in that last race, right? That horse is absolutely a freak of all freaks. And you look at the typical Bob Baffert workout, sub 112. It's all systems go. Dark Vader, class horse. I'm sure Peter Urton is, thinking he was going to get a little bit of an easier field coming here. So, I would expect Dark Vader to, try to make it competitive, but I just don't see anybody being able to run with Triple Tap today.
You talked about Flightline in the Malibu last time out. Can sometimes when a horse gets beat like Triple Tap did, basically by a distance, 4th beaten 18 lengths, can they maybe get their heart ripped out of them? Do they lose the spirit because maybe the light bulb goes on? Wow, maybe I'm not as good as my breeding would indicate.
Yeah, I think, 1 time, no. 3 times, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And, the other thing you got to remember is those horses coming out of Bob Baffert's barn, they're running against those types of horses every morning. So, that competition in that barn is every good as the competition in the afternoon. So I'm not too worried about it with Triple Tap, especially when you look at some of the work since the Malibu. I think the horse will be on its toes, and I'll be shocked if it doesn't win pretty easily.
Let's take a look at the nightcap. It goes as race number 8, and we're on the turf course. 1 mile is the distance. Calbred, allowance optional claiming types. Also, race 8 begins the $5 Golden Hour Daily Double. Similar concept. Our last race with the last race at Golden Gate. We've got a good field of 9 here. Number 5, Secret Club, owned by one of your buddies, Tom Cagle, is the 9-5 morning line favorite. Before we get your thoughts on the race, you talked about a horse who likes to run. Happy, making his 5th start of the meet. Last ran on February 13th at a longer distance. Let's watch that replay and evaluate if his chances may be improved today at the shorter distance as we listen to Frank Miramati.
They're in the gate. And they're off. Very even start. Keystone Field has Summerly Foot. So does Happy. Builder is the gray along the inside. And they're joined by Absolute Unit furthest out. Down at the rail comes Irish Heatwave, about 5 lengths off the early speed. Fly Nightly is next to him. Bee Catcher is rushing right into contention, but has to go at least 4 wide into the turn. Fly the Sky is tugging pretty hard as they move into that turn. Liberal is settled toward the back of the field, and Big Buzz is the distant trailer. Not much pace on rounding the first turn, and it's Builder showing the way. Has it 3/4 of a length to Happy in second. Irish Heatwave tucked in nicely at the rail in third. An Absolute Unit is just outside of him in fourth. They're followed by Keystone Field. Bee Catcher on the outside and Fly Nightly at the rail has about 6 to make up. Fly the Sky in the yellow blinkers is next. 2 clear of Liberal and Big Buzz. They have less than a half mile to go. Builder has been the controlling speed. Happy a length back in second. They're followed at the rail by Irish Heatwave, and Absolute Unit is next to him. Then Keystone Field between rivals. Whitecap on hold at this stage and a little bit of traffic. Bee Catcher is just outside of that rival. It's another 2 lengths. Big Buzz underway. Pink Cap will have to cover a lot of real estate as the field turns for home. Builder is the first to give way. Happy goes on with it. Leads it by a length. On the extreme outside, Bee Catcher and Big Buzz. Down on the inside, Keystone Field trying to get through a very narrow opening. A wide open scramble to the finish. Center of the course, Big Buzz just keeps on coming along with Fly the Sky. These two will decide it. Fly the Sky wins it by a head. Big Buzz just missed in second. Keystone Field in the battle for third. Liberal was closing and got a small piece.
In retrospect, Kenny, Happy might have hit the front early, but let's face it, he was 38-1 that day, and he kind of dug in gamely. Now he goes from 1 1/8 to a mile. He's got that good improving Beyer speed figure pattern as well. Is he your top choice, or are you looking in a different direction?
No, I like Happy. I think that turning back an 8th is going to help quite a bit. Ryan Cortolo is on fire right now.
Doing a great job
riding. So I think he's the type who'll probably wait a little bit longer. He's had another big win yesterday coming late for Drysdale in the last. So that would be my top selection. And my second one is If I Told You. I like the 7 a little bit, and that's more of a hunch play. Getting Hernandez on there. Decent number last time after a long layoff. So if that horse can move forward a little bit, going 6.5 to a mile with Creative Cause in the breeding should be fine. And I think that this race is probably a little bit more open than most people would think looking at the Beyer speed figures. I can make a case for the 2, and then certainly my good friend and partner's Secret Club with Tom Cagle. That horse will be tough. Even Hoop Dream could be a little bit tough. So I think this race is going to be deep. I think it's going to be a lot of horses near each other right there on the wire.
6 and 7 in a wide open scramble to close things out. Keep in mind, live racing resumes here in Southern California next Friday. 8 race card begins at 12:30. Ken, thanks so much for your time and insight today. Continued success, not only at the windows, but also with the horses you own as well.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it. It's been a pleasure.
Appreciate all of you watching as well. Make sure you have some fun today. Make some money. Next voice you hear will be track announcer Frank Miramati updating us with any late program changes. Good luck, everybody. We'll see you on Friday.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for our national anthem. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Santa Anita Park, the great race place. Here are the changes. First race begins the early pick 5, rail on the turf at 20 feet. We are fast and firm today. No changes in the first. No scratches or jockey changes in the second, which begins the early pick 4. In the third race, Rainbow pick 6 on races 3 through 8. There's 84,000 in the jackpot pool for a single ticket winner. Scratch number 5, Gator Shining. Note 6, I'm Still Thirsty, 1 over. In the fourth, start of the late pick 5. No scratches or jockey changes. Fifth race, number 2, Jem and Jill, 2 pounds over. Program scratch of 6, Discreet, Stevie B. In the sixth one, La Chiquis, 2 pounds over. 2, Sci-Far, 1 pound over. 7 starts the golden hour, pick 4, no show wagering. Scratch number 2, Shaz. And in the 8th race, start of the golden hour double, no scratches or jockey changes. Enjoy your day at Santa Anita Park. Post time for the first is in 26 minutes at 12:30. Don't forget, we have first Saturday, March 5th, an unrivaled day of racing awaits you. Part of the festivities, the 85th running of the Santa Anita Handicap presented by Yamava Resort and Casino at San Manuel. That's just one of many highlights of an unprecedented day that includes 15 stakes races across 2 first venues, a $5 million free jackpot contest, an on-track beer and cider festival, Santa Anita Travel Mug giveaway presented by Yamavar Resort and Casino, to the first 5,000 Thoroughbreds and XB Rewards members. Much more on Big Cap Day. Go to santanita.com for details.